So veganism is a moral imperative. I want to ask you some rhetorical questions first of all. If you have any actual questions, you feel free to ask me at the end and challenge me on absolutely anything. I'll not be offended in any way of any questions you want to ask. But I want to start by asking you some rhetorical questions. The first thing I want to do is to give you a definition of vegan and animal rights, and this is the definition as best as I could write it in a succinct way, and it's to seek to end the use of other animals by humans for food, commodities, work, hunting, vivisection, entertainment, and all other uses involving exploitation of non-human animals. The questions to start off with are: do the words victim, abuse, domination, and slavery only apply to human beings, to the human race? Shouldn't good people always apply the golden rule? I don't know if you all know what the golden rule is, but the golden rule of life is do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. Well, animals qualify as others. What's your definition of humane? The actual definition of humane is benevolence. It's to show kindness to, it's to care for. So when we talk about things like humane treatment of animals or humane slaughter is an oxymoron. It's probably the biggest oxymoron in the English language. The word humane means benevolence, and the word slaughter means to kill somebody in a violent fashion. Those two words do not belong together. When you argue against veganism, do you understand what you're arguing for? Have you been to the farms? Have you been in slaughterhouses? Have you been in vivisection labs? Because I've been to all these places and I have seen with my own eyes and heard with my own ears how the animals suffer. So we need to grasp what we're actually arguing for. Do you believe humans are superior or more important than other animals? And if so, why? So when I ask people that question, they usually say, well, human beings are more intelligent. But can we see that when we answer that question in that way, we're operating from a position of huge bias, that we pick the one evolutionary trait that we have excelled at the most? Because we're not the fastest runners, we can't jump the highest, we're not the best hunters, we are not the strongest, we're not the biggest. We can't communicate thousands of miles across the ocean without technology. Animals excel us in many different ways. So the question is not, are we superior to animals? The question should really be, isn't every life important to the one who's living that life? Are the reasons and excuses we use to not be vegan valid? So there's generally 4 reasons people use to not be vegan, and they are habit, tradition, convenience, and taste. But I want to challenge you, if they are actually good enough reasons to cause suffering and death to other beings when we simply don't need to. And is using otherization. Does everybody know what otherization is? Is otherization justification to treat others differently or poorly? Is it ever okay? So I grew up in Northern Ireland during the 70s when sectarianism was a big, massive thing, and I was taught to treat others differently because they were a different religion or a different nationality. That was just common practice in those days. When we look at racism, when we look at homophobia, sexism, all those things are wrong. We know they're wrong. Is to treat others. What we should look for in others is commonality, and realize that it's wrong to treat others differently and make them suffer just because they're different than us. Now, those isms I was talking about, you'll be familiar with them, but you might not be familiar with this one. Speciesism. Has anybody heard that word before? So speciesism is the assignment of different values, rights, or consideration solely on the basis of species. Or, very simply put, treating animals like absolute crap just because they're not the same species as us. So those are the questions I wanted to ask you right off the bat. I want to introduce myself. My name's Cliff. I am a vegan animal rights activist, like I told you before. I'm from Ballymena. And how did I end up being a vegan animal rights activist? I think it's a series of events that happened throughout my life. I want to tell you one. So when I was 10 years old, we lived in the countryside when I was a child, and then my dad got a new job and we moved house into the suburbs of Ballymena, and our house was about 2 miles from the abattoir, but it was actually just across 2 fields, so about 500 or 600 yards. And this day my friend and I were playing football at the front of my house, and out of the corner of my eye I seen a white cow running across the field, shortly followed by 2 guys, top to toe in white, with green, like tabard aprons on, covered in blood. Both had large sticks with them. They chased the cow down into the corner of the field, and they began to beat the cow viciously, across the face, across the back, across the legs. I think they actually broke one of the cow's legs, and the cow collapsed onto the ground. And I was just a child, I was 10 years old, but almost automatically I began to shout, "Hey, stop. What are you doing? Stop." And my friend was shouting too, and my dad came out of the house and he started to shout at these guys to stop as well. And it seemed to go on for an absolute eternity. And then a white van came across the field, and they tied chains and ropes around that cow, and they dragged the cow away. And I was deeply distressed. You can probably tell when I'm telling you about it now. I still feel the same feeling inside my soul that I felt that day. And I was talking to my dad afterwards, and I was confused. I was like, why would anybody do such a thing to a defenseless animal that hasn't done anything on anybody? And he told me something I'd never considered before, that the cow had obviously escaped from the slaughterhouse and ran for its life, and those men came and took the cow back to where he or she would be bolt gunned in the head and have their throat cut. And that distressed me, because I was an animal lover from this high. I loved animals when I was a child, and probably like most of you, my pajamas when I was a kid had animals on them. The books I read were about animals, the cartoons and the films I watched were about animals. And anytime I was around them, I just wanted to protect them and hug them and be around them. I definitely didn't want to harm them. So that set something off in my brain. And a series of other events up until I was like 19. I was still eating chicken, but I'd given up red meat and pork and fish and milk when I was young. I was taught in those days, probably like you have been taught, that we had to eat those products to survive, and I didn't have access to the internet in those days, so I thought I had to eat these things. I thought it was necessary for human health, which couldn't be further from the truth. And then when I was 19, I was like, oh, I can be vegetarian. So I went strict vegetarian. But I was still, throughout my life, wearing leather and using the common excuses that people use who love animals. Well, it's just a byproduct and all these things. And then about 12 to 13 years ago, I seen a speech online by a guy called Gary Yourofsky. It's on YouTube, free to watch. It's probably the most powerful speech I've ever seen in my life, and I couldn't argue with a single word that that guy said in that speech, and I went vegan overnight, and I've been an activist ever since. So I wanted to ask you today, at what age did you lose your compassion for other animals? Because compassion is not taught, it's untaught, and it's untaught to us by society. And it starts very young. Is anybody familiar with this type of image from when you were at primary school of a farm? This is what I was sold when I was young. There's one farmer, one cow, one horse, one pig. Everybody's happy, and there's no mention of what's going to happen to these animals or why they're there. And this here is Northern Ireland's countryside. We're taught that this is what our countryside should look like. Green Ireland. Well, all we can see here is a jigsaw puzzle of green fields. All we really grow in this country now is grass to keep cows. This is not how the countryside should look like. Before the Industrial Revolution, Ireland had the most forest in Europe. Today we have less than 2%. We have the lowest in Europe. We have cut down the forests, and we have fields of grass so that we can farm cows. So this is not how the countryside should look. This is a complete utter myth. And this is more of the messaging that we get to train us to not think about animals. Happy meals, the laughing cow, happy eggs. Animals are always presented to us as singing and dancing their way to the slaughterhouse. And the other side of that coin is this type of stuff. Certified humane, animal welfare approved, free range, grass fed, RSPCA approved for a better quality of life. So we're bombarded from an early age with all this messaging. And we're taught when we're young to draw an arbitrary line between animals. On this side of the line, dogs, cats, horses. If somebody shoots a ram, you're supposed to get upset. If somebody shoots a lion, you're supposed to get upset. Bullfighting's bad, fox hunting's bad. But these other animals, the ones that we typically consume and wear, you're taught not to think about them at all. Something bad maybe happens to them somewhere where you can't see, but you're taught to put it out of your mind and not think about it because it's necessary for human beings to eat animals. So if I show you this picture, what do you see here? You see food, right? Yeah. This is food to everybody. And again, what do you see here? Food again. What about this? Is this food to everybody? It's not food to me. I see animal parts when I see that now. But we're taught to think of this as food. What about this guy? Do we see food here? No. This picture here was taken at Yulin Dog Festival, because in some parts of the world eating dogs is completely normalised to them, in the same way that we eat pigs and sheep and chickens. They are not pets, they're not domesticated animals, they are seen as food animals. So these dogs here are brought to this festival in their thousands. They are killed in a really brutal fashion, they are cooked and people eat them. And people in the UK get really upset by this. They sign petitions, they go to the embassies and protest, but those very same people go back home at night time and eat other animals that have the ability to feel pain and suffer in exactly the same way that dogs do. And what do you see here? Do you see, when you look at this picture, do you see Sunday dinner? Do you see lamb roast or lamb chops? Or do you see a beautiful little animal that just wants to live their life and be free? What about this little guy? This little guy will or would grow into the same type of pig that we eat for food. And again, do you see food here? Do you see bacon or pork sausages? Or do you see a little animal that's probably just like a little puppy that you would have at home? And this little calf, do you see leather shoes and jackets? Or do you see an animal that just wants to live their life in peace and be free from harm? So, has anybody seen the film The Matrix? Yeah, you've seen it? So in the film, the main character is offered two pills. If he takes the blue pill, his life continues as normal and he wakes up tomorrow and nothing has changed. If he takes the red pill, the reality of what is really going on is revealed to him. So I want to give you some of that tonight. I don't use any graphic imagery, by the way. There's maybe some pictures here that are mildly upsetting, but I just want to show you the reality of some of the stuff I've seen. So this picture here, this image, we're taught as children what farms are supposed to be like. This is an actual farm. This is a pig farm in Kilkeel that burned down a couple of years ago. Now, I don't know if anybody knows what all this is. When I first saw this, I was like, what the heck is that? Is that the infrastructure of the building? These are actual cages. They're called farrowing crates. So the animals that were in here burned to death. They couldn't escape. Can you imagine what I was like on that farm, being trapped in one of those cages? This is what all that ironmongery was. Cages. It's called a farrowing crate. So these mother sows are made pregnant. They're forcibly impregnated. They're pregnant for about 4.5 months, which they'll spend most of the time in this cage. As you can see, it's the size of her body. She can't turn around. She can't walk forwards or backwards. She can literally stand up or lie down. She will be in there for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. They go absolutely crazy. When the little piglets are born, this area here at the front is called a creep area, where they're allowed to feed from her for a short time. And once they're big enough, well, actually, three things that happen first. As soon as they're born, we amputate their tails, we castrate them, and we clip off their teeth. Now, the reason we clip their teeth off with pliers with no anaesthetic, and this is common practice throughout the pig industry, is because this is where they live. This is Hogwood Farm. This is a supplier for Tesco's. So they're putting these pens of about 20 to 24 pigs, and they will live like this for 6 months until they're fully grown. And I've been in these places, I've been in numerous of them, and I can tell you, when you walk into those places, the stench of urine and filth and squalor is literally unbelievable, and they never get a minute's peace, because some are sleeping, some are awake, they're climbing over the top of each other. Pigs are quite social animals. They are actually like dogs, but when they're in such close confinement with absolutely nothing, they will fight with each other, and that's why we clip their teeth off. That's me inside a local farm, and we did a farm investigation in Cloughmills 3 years ago now. 50 activists from all over Europe went into this place. I'll just quickly go through these pictures. This is the door on the way in. This one here is farmers called, it's JMW Farms, it's James and Mark Wright. They're based in Armagh, but they have farms in the south of Ireland, farms in the north of Ireland. They also have farms in England. So this is typical conditions for the pigs in this place. This is how they live for 6 months. This here is called a hang chain. Pigs are really intelligent animals, so for their enrichment, this is what we allow them to play with, a chain hanging in each pen. That's it, that's all they get for 6 months. This is one of the pens again. Thousands upon thousands of pigs, pen after pen after pen, barn after barn after barn is absolutely diabolical. And if dogs had to live like this, people would be up in arms. And like I tell you, pigs are more intelligent than dogs, and if you interact with pigs, they behave exactly like dogs. They get to know their name, they wag their tails, they're very amiable, they're beautiful animals. And to treat animals like this for a bacon sandwich or a pork sausage when you can just eat a vegan version instead, I cannot see how in any way you could justify this. But this is where we are. And again, another pen in the same farm. So these are local, this is your local farm. So the first day those pigs will ever see sunlight or feel the wind in their face is the day somebody turns up with a truck and takes them to a slaughterhouse. And when they get to the slaughterhouse, they're forced inside. Pigs, I've done vigils at slaughterhouses, and I've been inside Cranswick and Ballymena, and I've stood right beside this place here. So the pigs are terrified from the moment they arrive. They're highly intelligent. Pigs are the fourth most intelligent animal. So it's human beings, then it's dolphins and whales. Corvids are number 3. Pigs are number 4. They're smarter than primates and smarter than dogs. So the minute they arrive, they hear the screaming inside, and they know something bad is going to happen to them. But they're forced inside, and they're forced to stand in line. And they're put into this cage. Does anybody know what this is? This is a cage, this is their last view of life. 3 or 4 will be put in here, and they're dropped down into a gas chamber. And they're gassed. Carbon dioxide, which is a really cheap, aversive gas. Now the industry tells us that this is the most humane method. It's actually the cheapest method. Carbon dioxide is like suffocation. I've stood right beside this and listened to them screaming as they are suffocated. And then they roll out the bottom, they're shackled, hung upside down, and their throats are cut. It's diabolical. And give me a sec. The last day I was here, I cried for 20 minutes, and I couldn't sleep for 2 days. So it's not worth it. It is absolutely not worth it. And the dairy industry, sorry, I get upset sometimes. I've seen so many things. Again, this is what we're sold about the dairy industry. Happy, healthy cows, the usual stuff. I'll just do dairy and I'll do pigs, and then we'll move on from it. 15 days old. I think it's an absolute disgrace. This is a typical dairy calves coming into the market. And this picture here, just to show you, you can see the age of these calves are very, very young. This picture was taken on the border between the Netherlands and Belgium. These calves were going into the veal industry. But the lorry crashed on the motorway, and many of the little calves were killed at the side of the road. Now the reason I'm showing you that is because people online, this was a company from Ballymena, I'm trying to think of their name. It's Ballymena Calf Markets or something like that. I can't just, the name escapes me at the minute. But people went on to their thread on Facebook and were saying, this is a disgrace, look at the age of these calves, this is terrible. And their response was, well, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to kill them at birth or give them a chance at life? Well, their idea of a chance at life is being sold into the veal industry and standing in a pen this size in darkness for 18 weeks and then somebody sticking a knife in your throat. That's not a chance at life. That's not a chance at life at all. So the answer is not kill them at birth or give them a chance at life. The answer is not breed them into existence in the first place. Especially when we don't need dairy milk. If you think about it logically, you wouldn't drink horse milk or donkey milk or dog milk or any of these things. Human beings drink human milk until you wean, and then you wean off milk like every other animal, and then you're fine. We do not need to drink milk from another animal. And if I said to you, would you drink human milk in adulthood, you would think that was weird. So why do we think it's weird to drink our own human milk? That's weird, but drinking milk from another animal has been completely normalized to us. And you can just go into the supermarket and buy a plant-based milk. You can buy soy milk, almond milk, rice milk, coconut milk, hemp milk, pea milk, oat milk. I think there's 12 different types in the supermarket. So if you can use any one of the alternatives, and cows don't have to go through what they go through in the dairy industry for a completely unnecessary reason, well then why do we not just simply pick up a plant-based milk instead? And it's so easy. Like, people think going vegan is difficult, and it's literally walk into the supermarket and you think, oh, I need a pint of milk for my coffee or my cereal, and you go to reach for the dairy milk and you think, no, I'm not going to support that industry anymore, it's cruel and I don't want to be part of it. And you literally turn around and you pick one of the plant-based milks and test instead, and they all taste great. And I guarantee you, if you try them, you will find one. I love oat milk in my coffee. I like rice milk and coconut milk in my cereal, and you will find a plant-based milk and that is great. So, does anybody know what this picture is? It's Picasso paint. Do you know?
It's Guernica from Wisconsin.
You're right. Yeah, well done. So it's Guernica. So when Picasso, during the Second World War, Picasso was in Paris, and Hitler sent an envoy from the Nazi Party to go and see Picasso to try and get him on side with the Nazi Party. And while the envoy was in Picasso's apartment, he seen this painting. Now this is small, it's a huge, massive painting. This depicts the bombing and killing of innocent civilians in a village during the Second World War. So the envoy stood in front of this painting and he looked at it and he said, wow, this is unbelievable. Did you do this? And Picasso said, no, you did it. The point is that we are to blame. The consumer is to blame, not the farmers, because the farmers will only produce what the consumer buys. It's supply and demand. If we demand the product, farmers will supply it. So we simply demand plant-based products instead, then farmers will switch and make something else instead, which many farmers now do. So, as you know, I'm an activist. And this is one of my favourite quotes. It's by Ida B. Wells. She was a civil rights movement well-known person, and she said the way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. So that's why I spend most of my time. I go onto the streets, by the way. I talk to people, I interview them, and I'm not trying to judge people. I believe we're all good people at heart, and Okay, so there are people who do not care about animals at all in this world, and personally I'm not going to waste my time talking to those people, but there are many good-hearted people who do genuinely care about animals and have been taught by society that all these things are okay. When you actually delve deeper, they're not okay. So that's why I spend my time and I go onto the streets and I try to find these people and I talk to them and I try to get them to see it from a different perspective, from the victim's perspective, which is the way we should look at every single injustice, not from our perspective, but from the perspective of the victim. So when I talk to people on the street, they throw up many objections. And I pretty much think I've heard them all by now because I've been doing it for years. So I'm going to go through 2 or 3 quickly and just cover them because they're the typical ones that people use all the time. And one I hear all the time is personal choice. It's my personal choice to eat animal products. Don't try and tell me what to do. Well, personal choice sounds like a good argument, but personal choice should not involve harming somebody else. Then it's not a personal choice anymore. So if I say that I'm going to go over and punch Jonathan in the face, that's my personal choice. Well, it's no longer a personal choice if I'm going to cause harm and suffering to you. So it's actually a really terrible argument. Another one I hear, farmers' livelihoods. Farmers have to make money. Yeah, they do. Of course they do. But farmers can all do something else. The way I answer this question is, yes, farmers need to make money. And they have to pay their bills, of course, and they need to feed their families, etc. But people who work in the cigarette manufacturing industry have to pay their bills and make money. But I'm not going to advocate that people smoke just so somebody can make money from it. The arms industry, loads of people working in the arms industry making money from it, paying their bills, feeding their families. But I don't advocate that we drop bombs or shoot innocent people just because it keeps somebody else in a job. And the prison industry, many people work for the prison industry. I don't advocate that we should throw innocent people in prison just because it keeps somebody in a job. So by the same token, I do not advocate that we should harm innocent animals who have done nothing wrong on anybody just because it keeps somebody in a job. And like I say, there are many other things that farmers can do. I am 56 and I've had about 10 jobs in my lifetime. Human beings can adapt. That's one thing we're really good at. And we can all do something else instead. And the last one here, people say to me all the time, shouldn't you just campaign for animal welfare? No, I'm an animal rights campaigner. Welfare, if you think about it, is almost an oppositional position to animal rights. If I could put it into the context of slavery, when people were talking about abolition, some people were saying, let's get rid of slavery, let's have abolition. And other people were saying, well, no, let's not get rid of it. Let's give them better conditions. Let's give them somewhere nice to live. Let's give them a nice comfortable bed and good food. They're still slaves. And slavery is always wrong. And there's no good way to do a really bad thing. So I am an animal rights abolitionist. And all these arguments, plants have feelings, and lions, and bees, and calcium, and canine teeth, and protein, and soy. Drinking soy milk gives you man boobs, which is like jeepers. Some of the things people say to me are literally unbelievable. There's answers to absolutely them all, and the most popular one at the minute is crop deaths. There's answers for that too. I'm not going to cover it now, but there are answers. I have literally never heard, maybe somebody in this room will come up with one tonight, I've never heard a good solid argument against being vegan. So these 4 words that I told you at the start, the excuses or the reasons we give for not being vegan: habit, tradition, convenience, and taste. I would appeal to you to replace those 4 words with one word: ahimsa. This word was written in the Upanishads hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. It's one of the oldest written texts that we have, and it means non-violence and compassion for all living beings. Because shouldn't we always make the kind and compassionate choice? I think we should. And just to finish off, animals are not chicken nuggets. They're not machines to lay eggs. They are not steaks and burgers. They are not leather jackets and shoes and handbags. They are not pork sausages and bacon. And they are definitely not Sunday roast and wool. They are living, breathing, sentient beings who feel pain and suffer in exactly the same way that you and I do. And they deserve to live their life in peace. And my last shot to you would be that every single life on this planet is equally important to the one who is living that life. Who are we to decide who lives and who dies, who suffers and who doesn't? Because we can all make kinder choices. And that's me done.
Thank you.